Hi everyone, Amy Persson from the University of Technology Sydney here. I'm excited to bring you the first series for Change the Story. Every day, in homes across Australia, around 300 languages are spoken. But we see ourselves as an English-speaking country, and we tend to understand Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and cultures primarily through English and a Western lens. So, how can we change this story? How can we connect with First Nations peoples and cultures through the many languages we speak? Find out in My Language, My Country.
Agyamanak kadagiti na indaklan ang mangipang pangulo iti daga, di jay tatao nga Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. Agsipo da kadagiti am amin ang naglabas kun agdama. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which I live and work, the Gadigal people, the Darug people, and the Guringai people. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and recognize the enduring strength of their languages, stories, and cultural practices that continue to guide and sustain communities today.
What's about different countries?
Oh, do you know about what it means to acknowledge country when you're in Australia?
I do, but I forgot.
Oh, so in school, do you acknowledge country? When you go, I acknowledge the people here, the Darug and Guringai people?
Yes, we say that every...
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we say that.
Do you think it's important to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Why is it?
Because they have to wear it first and
Most of us here in Australia are now familiar with the practice of saying an acknowledgement of country at the start of meetings and events. But like my daughter Violet, there might be times when we can't quite remember the meaning behind an acknowledgement. We hear them so often. Maybe they feel tokenistic, like we're just going through the motions. And what if your first language isn't English? I'd been thinking about these questions when I came up with the idea of saying an acknowledgement in my mother language instead of English, the language of colonization. And I invited staff and students at the university where I work, UTS, on Gadigal land in Sydney, to do the same.
Noi vorremmo riconoscere le comunità a cui appartengono le terre.
Via baka binabinaka, we kimni na turangan bale, na maramang bale, thawrabo, ngwanelewa.
What started as a simple translation exercise turned into so much more, a much larger exploration of language, identity, and belonging. And that sparked deep dive discussions about the relationship between First Nations peoples and migrants like me. And we discovered that a multilingual acknowledgement of country is like a portal, a unique way into sometimes difficult conversations about race, colonialism, and what it means to be both minoritized and a settler in Australia today. In this podcast, I'd love to share some of these conversations with you. Kamusta? Hello! My name is Elaine Laforteza. Nanagsakak nga agsabat kada kayo iti daytoy a podcast. A warm welcome from me to the very first episode of My Language, My Country. So, why focus on language? At the beginning of this episode, you heard me saying an acknowledgement of country in Ilocano, my mother language. Ilocano is the third most spoken language in the country where I'm from, the Philippines. It's also the first most spoken language when disciplining my kids in my household. Agtal na ka man? I talk to my mum mostly in Ilocano.
Naindaklan, data the pronunciation, naindaklan.
Naindaklan.
And with her help, we came up with an Ilocano version of the acknowledgement that felt quite formal.
Pangulo. Oh, won!
And I think that this reflects the gravity of an acknowledgement of country.
Agsipodak kadagiti am amin aglabas ken agdama.
In this podcast, we'll hear acknowledgements in a number of languages. Just earlier, we heard a few excerpts. One of the voices was Nema, speaking in Sindhi.
I am originally from India, and Sindhi is my language. I had like a 1-hour conversation with my father, 1-hour conversation with my grandmother, told them about Acknowledgement of Country. They connected it to the same kind of history India has.
We also heard Carmine in Italian.
My background is based from Italy, and I think for people like me that was growing up overseas, it is interesting to explore how would you acknowledge the country in a different way.
And Esita was acknowledging country in Fijian.
I feel like my ancestors, they would have done it in Fijian, and the indigenous people would have done it in their language. Doing it in my language, that's why it's emotional, because for me, I'm bringing my people with me.
I just love that. Bringing my people with me. In Esita's Fijian culture, ancestral bonds are revered, much like in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander societies. Esita, Nema, Carmine and I were all surprised to discover these deep connections between our lived experiences as migrants and First Nations peoples, just by saying an acknowledgement in our mother languages. And this discovery led me to rethink the importance of language. In Australia, we don't have an official national language. English is our de facto national language. But English is also the colonial language. It arrived on the shores of Gamay Botany Bay on board HMS Endeavour with Lieutenant James Cook. And just to be clear, the English language is not the problem. I wouldn't be able to talk with you in this podcast if we didn't have English. The problem is, English dominates, and the prevailing wisdom seems to be that English is the only language we need in Australia. This monolingual mindset means we have a tendency to see the world mostly through a Western lens. But this continent has always been multilingual. Around 250 First Nations languages were spoken before Cook's arrival. And today, we're even more multilingual. About 200 migrant languages are spoken in Australian homes. Of course, I'm not suggesting we learn all of these languages. My Duolingo app couldn't cope with that. But language does have the power to shape the way we experience the world. And a diversity of languages means a rich diversity of experiences and perspectives. So why acknowledge country in many languages? Well, it's a recognition of our rich linguistic diversity. And that feels to me like a resistance to the monolingual mindset. And using our languages prompts migrants and new settlers to re-examine our place on this continent. My mum and I had a really good discussion about what words like ancestor and custodian mean in Ilocano, or even if there's an equivalent, and that inspired us to rethink our relationships with our own homeland and also our place in Australia. And I want to encourage you to say your acknowledgements in your mother language as well. It might be just as transformative as it was for me. So, is there a correct way to acknowledge country? Whatever language you use, the first thing to do is to get to know the traditional custodians of the land that you're on. A good place to start is your local council website. And we're going to unpack what makes up an acknowledgement. And to do this, we're going to school.
Hi, my name is Noah from Marrickville West. MWPS. Best school ever.
Hi, I'm Tom from Marrickville West. This is the world's best school and it's proven. Because we have such a diverse community. Everyone's accepted.
Clearly, These kids from Marrickville West Primary love their school. The public school is on Gadigal country in Sydney's inner west, and a group of Year 5 and 6 students are going to teach us about acknowledging country.
At school we do it in morning assemblies and afternoon assemblies. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people and the elders, both past, present, for taking care of this land for thousands of years. You respected it so long, and I promise to take care of the land and the animals and like the nature. Oh, I was going to say that.
Acknowledgement to country is like acknowledging that they were there first and that we're on their land. The welcome to country is like saying welcome to my land. And
a welcome to country is only by the person who is like a part of the mob of the land.
An acknowledgement of country can be performed by anyone.
Well, let's say they don't know what the word acknowledging is. So basically to say, it's kind of like respecting the people who were here before us.
Elders means basically your like ancestors.
The elders like tell stories, like the Dreamtime stories.
Custodians of the land means people that were just like always here. They were like the first people, and
to like represent the people that were here before us and like right now in the future.
Because people say respect your teachers, and it's like respecting the people who took care of this land from the past.
If you play a soccer game, you should always have respect for the other team. You shouldn't be rude, even if you're winning by like 10-0. Just don't be rude, because you don't know they're still trying, and that's respect.
Because like some of the kids at our school are Aboriginal. I'm Aboriginal. Also, the school was built on top of Gadigal land. They want to acknowledge it and thank them for taking care of this land.
The reason we keep saying it is because so we always remember that we weren't the first people here.
Maybe as well as so younger children can understand how to kind of respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and learn.
To acknowledge that we can't go back to the past. Instead, we'll like be better in the future.
We're from Marrickville West Primary School.
When I came to Australia in the 1990s, there was hardly any education in schools about First Nations history. And I certainly don't remember acknowledgements of country at my school assemblies. Today, though, education about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures starts early, and many educational institutions have an elder in residence.
Thank you so much, Auntie Glendra, for being here.
It's a pleasure.
For speaking with me.
The wonderful Auntie Glendra Stubbs is an elder in residence at the university where I work.
And I've got a really lovely little story.
Yes, yeah.
That I go into preschools and read books to the kids.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was reading this little book, and this little boy who was Chinese, he said, Mama, I want to be Aborigine. And she goes, you can't. And he goes, you fix everything. You better fix this. And I thought, oh, my God, you know.
It's beautiful.
It just warms my heart, yeah. I think, you know. Yeah, eh? Yeah. And I said, oh, we're all connected, darling. Yeah, we're all connected. There's a connection to us all.
Oh, gosh. But Auntie Glendra, that point about connection, so this is making me think of the acknowledgement of country, right? But what is that? Is that a point of connection? What is an acknowledgement of country?
As you can tell, I'm really old, and it wasn't something that just happened.
Yeah.
So when things start to happen, there's always people that don't want it to happen. But it's just been so embraced by every uni, every school, every preschool.
Here is the land, here is the sky, here are my friends, and here am I. We learned today on Gadigal land
that it's everyone's job. Everyone can acknowledge the land that we're on and how we want to keep it safe.
It's all of us, isn't it?
It is all
it's
of
the whole
us.
community.
It is.
When people do an acknowledgement of country, I have heard different versions. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians.
Yeah.
I've also heard I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners. What's more appropriate to say? Is there a difference?
I think whatever you feel comfortable with. Like, I've never seen anyone stand up and go, hey, you said the wrong thing. Like, it's about what makes you happy.
Yeah, it has to be meaningful, right? And respectful and okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Here in Australia, acknowledgements of country became more widespread in the 1990s, partly encouraged by the famous High Court Mabo decision. This recognised Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander native title. Now, there's still resistance from some people, though acknowledging country is now a core national custom in Australia. But there's a flip side. The more widespread they become, the more we might feel like we've absolved our responsibilities to do the real work of reconciliation, like truth-telling. What do we need to do to make acknowledgements more than mere words? I wish you could see the acknowledgement by the kindergarten kids, because it's also in Auslan, or Australian Sign Language. So apart from being really cute, it's a bilingual acknowledgement of country.
We learned today on Gadigal land, our First Nations peoples, we walk hand in hand. We'd like to say thank you for letting us share land that you love. We promise to take care.
At Marrickville West, the students learn about Aboriginal culture so that they understand why we do an acknowledgement. So, education for all of us is key. A meaningful acknowledgement needs to reflect an understanding of our colonial history and First Peoples' unbroken connection to country.
It's like saying if you hurt someone, you would say sorry because you have to acknowledge that you did something wrong. And taking over this land was wrong, so we're acknowledging that people here before us and that we're not really the owners of this land.
But most of all, we need to imagine a future that we all have a stake in.
Like, we don't inherit it from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. Our ancestors have taken good care of it for us, which means we should take good care of it for the future generations.
My name's Lachlan McDaniel. I'm a Wiradjuri man, so Wiradjuri country covers most of central New South Wales. It's a rather large First Nations nation in southeast Australia. I think the acknowledgement of country is extremely important because perhaps it's the only time that someone turns their mind to the fact that there are Indigenous people in Australia on a regular basis. And I'm really glad to see that it's a growing practice amongst non-Indigenous peoples. I would encourage people to personalise the acknowledgement of country a little bit more if they're comfortable in doing so.
I wonder how we can do this though. I've heard from a lot of people that they're concerned about being disrespectful by personalising an acknowledgement.
Well, I'll give an example. As an educator or working with young children, you say, for example, I acknowledge that the Gadigal people are amongst the world's oldest continuing people, and you don't become the world's oldest continuing people unless you're very good at taking care of your children. So I think that there's a lot that we can learn from the Gadigal people in how we care for our children today. Just those little personalisations that just say that you're going beyond going through the motions and that you're actually thinking about the Gadigal people and their culture and how that culture is still relevant to us in contemporary Australia. It's like almost giving a toast I think that takes things to the next level.
For First Nations people, acknowledging country as a guest on someone's land has a long history, certainly longer than for non-Indigenous folk. And for Lachlan, delivering an acknowledgement in his language while on Gadigal country highlights that he too is on someone else's land.
I think the significance of acknowledging Gadigal country in the Wiradjuri language is that people might not know the difference between an acknowledgement and a welcome. They might assume that, oh, I know an Aboriginal person, I'll get them to come and do a welcome to country. And it's like, actually, no, I can't. I'm a guest here. I have essentially the same standing as any non-Indigenous person on this country. So I suppose in speaking in the Wiradjuri language about being a guest and giving my respects in that way, it hopefully helps people understand that there are multiple peoples and Aboriginal peoples aren't one homogenous group. The Gadigal people experienced colonisation from the very start, 1788, 26th of January. This is where it all began. And so I think that all First Nations across the country owe that acknowledgement to the Gadigal people. They have effectively had the longest experience of colonisation in Australia, and there's unique difficulties in that. And I suppose, yes, using our language to acknowledge the Gadigal people, we as First Nations people who are not Gadigal, really need to remember to do that.
So when we talk about an acknowledgement of country and migrants doing it, Auntie Glendra, how do you feel if migrants say it in their native language?
Well, I think it's great. You know, like, honestly, we often have it done in Aboriginal language and then in non-Aboriginal language. So, yeah. I think, you know, for Aboriginal people, we were barred from speaking our language, which is really sad.
That is a serious issue. That's a loss of culture. That's a loss of a complete worldview that sits underneath a language. It's not just the words. It's not having a different name for cat and dog and happy and sad. It's that there are cultural concepts. There's philosophies underneath languages. And so when a language goes into dormancy, when we don't use it anymore, we lose that worldview that can challenge the dominant worldviews that we have in languages like English.
I just want to sit for a moment with what Lachlan just said about cultural concepts and worldviews being embedded in language. Take the Wiradjuri word Yinjamara. It's commonly translated as respect in English, but that barely scratches the surface of the deeper meaning. I think Yinjamara might be similar to the Ilocano word panagdayaw, which is also respect or honouring in English, but it means so much more. Panagdayaw is more like respect with humility and includes the ethic of revering elders and valuing community. It points to cultural values in Filipino society that hint at a way of being that's relational and ethical. These ideas are embedded in my language, Ilocano, and Lachlan's language, Wiradjuri. And I may never discover that we share these cultural concepts if we relied only on the English language word respect. And this is partly why I want to encourage a shift, a move from thinking only in English to embracing multilingualism. So what does embracing multilingualism sound like? Well, that's what we'll explore in the next episode, when we meet two incredible poets who challenge the monolingual mindset. They create bold, multilingual poetry. They use language to disrupt, to heal, to remember. It's an episode you can't miss, so I really hope you'll join me. Before I sign off, I want to extend a very special thank you to all the amazing students and the teachers, especially to Nick Armstrong and Principal Ruth Bradfield Ling at Marrickville West Primary School. Also, to Jane Curtis for connecting us with this very special school. I'm Elaine Laforteza. Thanks for your company. Maraming salamat, agyamanak.
I think sometimes preschool teachers they used to pick someone out to do acknowledgement.
Oh, and you chose to do it?
Yeah, I think about 3 times.
Wow.
With Bella.
Oh, good on you, Mum. And why with Bella specifically?
Well, we were really good friends and we both wanted to do it.
Okay, well that's why. That's very cool. Good for you. So Bella has Japanese and Aboriginal heritage, hey? How about you, Violet?
Mm-hmm.
What's your cultural background? Do you know?
I'm Filipino, Irish, Scottish, and I'm Australian.
Yeah, you've got a lot. There's probably more in there, but I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't going to say cat. Oh, she is a little bit cat-like.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You never know.